Welcome everybody to another episode of Deep DISCOG Dive. Today we're going to be continuing on with Kanye West's discography. This is episode 6, and Kanye West's 6th studio album is The Life of Pablo. This is following up his last album, 2013's Yeezus, one of Kanye West's most polarizing albums, similar to an album like 808s and Heartbreak, not in sound but in general reactions from fans. Yeezus saw Kanye West going into a darker route, definitely a more experimental route in the industrial hip-hop field. Yeezus came out after an incredible run of his first 3 albums, which are considered classics, 808s and Heartbreaks, which got mixed reactions but generally today is considered to be a very good album by most people, and then his most critically acclaimed album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which is my favorite Kanye West album. And after that album, he released Yeezus, which I did not very much care for. I thought the album was I felt like Kanye tried to go into more of a weird experimental sound, but didn't really execute it all that well. And in a lot of people's opinions, Kanye West sort of fell off after that. A lot of people seem to think that Kanye West, after Yeezus, never actually came back with a good album. Do I find myself on that side of the argument? I guess we're gonna have to wait until the end of this video to find out. But as I said, this brings us to The Life of Pablo, Kanye West's 2016 studio album. Now, I'm sure this is obvious enough, but I am going to be reviewing the most up-to-date version of this album, which I believe is going to be the version that we have forever. I can't remember when the last change to this album was made, but regardless, I'm going to be looking at the most up-to-date version. I never attentively listened to this album originally when it came out. When it did come out though, I was in school and there was a lot of hype around this album, so I did give a few tracks a listen, the majority of the track list, but I didn't really care for it because I didn't care for Kanye. I more so just listened to it because I was curious, but I wasn't really paying attention and I didn't really understand why this album ticked with so many people. So I did listen to some of it in 2016 when it came out, but I literally didn't care about it. It was more so something I played in the background, never really paid attention to, and after listening to a few songs, I dropped it until I'd say about 1 year ago, where I came back to this album, and fun fact, this is the first ever Kanye West album that I have listened to with my full attention, at least solo album. I did listen to Kids See Ghosts before I listened to this album, but in terms of solo projects that Kanye has worked on by himself, this is the first album that I actually ever listened to. I was intending to listen to Kanye from the beginning of his discography, but Ayeshi actually suggested that I start off with this album. I don't know why. This album is polarizing for a lot of fans, however, maybe not as polarizing as Yeezus, but that has pretty much been the case for almost every album that Kanye West has released ever since Yeezus. So that goes without saying. But with that being said, let's hop into the review. There are 19 cuts on this album that I would consider songs, so at the 19th spot we have Facts. This was a track that Kanye made to celebrate his shoe line. It is one of the most boring cuts on the album for me personally. The beat is okay. It kind of sounds like Kanye took a little bit of inspiration from a song like New Slaves off of Yeezus, while mixing that with Drake's Jumpman. While I'm completely aware that the intent was to copy Drake's flow, I'm just not all that interested in hearing Kanye pull off this sort of style. I'm sure that it can be a bit of a fun track to put on because of the hype feel that it can give you. It definitely can fill you with a lot of energy, but to me personally, it is painfully bland. In the number 18 spot, we have Highlights. This track is all over the place. The auto-tune on Ye's voice is perhaps some of the most horrendous I've heard on this whole project. The opening verse from Kanye contains the infamous line about him wishing that his dick had GoPro so that he could play that shit back in slow-mo. This makes for one of the most hilariously terrible lines that Kanye has ever laid to tape, and it goes hand in hand beautifully with the Bleach line, which, trust me, we will get to that. Once we get through the tedious chorus on this song, we move into the bridge, which is actually quite nice, followed by another verse from Kanye. I actually like some of the opening lines on his verse, talking about Ray J and how Ray J hit first. The only problem is that Ye is rich. It's definitely a very immature line, but I personally thought it was kind of funny. After that, Ye's rapping is actually quite good, but the outro following it is very bland and just makes me want to skip the track even faster. Overall, just way more duds on this track than hits. In the number 17th spot, we have Fade. I really like the Rare Earth vocals on this track. The reverb added to them sets the track up nicely and keeps it interesting. The chorus on the song is meh. It's a little underwhelming as I don't really feel the energy is really there from Ty Dolla $ign. The song does get better when that infectious bass line comes in that just makes me want to move. I don't really care about Kanye's performance on this track though. I just don't really feel like he does enough here. Post Malone's contributions to this track are just as uninteresting to my ears. The one thing I do love about this song is the bridge. The productions and the vocals by Miss Barbara Tucker sound large and is definitely my favorite part of this song. But in the end, while I know that a lot of people love this song, it's definitely considered one of the best on the album by a lot of people, I've always had mixed feelings about it. It just never really hit with me. I just find it to be a mixed bag. In the number 16 spot, we have Father Stretch My Hands Part 2. I like the buildup of this song with its really strange intro. Once again, we feature auto-tune on Kanye's voice, but here it doesn't sound bad. It gives a very electronic and almost drone-like quality to it that slightly reminds me of Stronger. The beat on this song is killer, but when we get to Designer's part, I really start to have my issues. This track basically just feels like a remix of Panda with the exact same verses from that song thrown in. I wasn't a fan of the song Panda to begin with, so I have no reason to enjoy it here. The chorus is really enjoyable though. Once again, I love the auto-tune on Kanye's voice and the repetition of "I just wanna feel liberated," just a little faster this time in reference to part 1. The weird drone voice cutoff at the end of the track is pretty weird, though I don't really have many opinions on it. Overall, it's a little more underwhelming than part 1, definitely could have been better in my opinion. In the number 15 spot, we have Frank's track. A short but sweet piece that's sang by none other than Frank Ocean. His singing is beautiful and moving. The light instrumental behind him is also a nice touch. It acts as an appreciated cool down point on the project. In the number 14 spot, we have Feedback. There's a very strange beat on this one. The bass is thumping and the off-kilter synth note that plays throughout the track gives this cut a very unhinged sound. Kanye's performance is pretty great. His rapping is confident and I'm a huge fan of the chorus. I love how confrontational Ye is with these bursts of "Wake up bro, wake up! We about to get this paper." The production gets even freakier following the halfway point. Some alien sound effects make things very weird. I will say though, I don't love the outro on this track, but I do like Kanye's manic ending calling himself the ghetto Oprah, but I don't really dig the abrasive synths. It reminds me of the ones that appeared on Hold My Liquor back on Yeezus, and I still don't like the similar addition to this track. It's just annoying to me. In the number 13 spot, we have I Love Kanye. This is a pretty tongue-in-cheek moment. Kanye is basically firing back at fans who say that they miss the old Kanye, while simultaneously being pretty self-aware about himself making a skit like this. Personally, I just thought it was a kind of witty and entertaining moment in the track list. In the 12th spot, we have Father Stretch My Hands, Part 1. I like the intro, and I love the explosive entrance of the beat when we get into the pre-chorus. Cudi's singing is great, and I love the pianos behind him. The chorus is also a winner from Kanye. The auto-tune over his voice sounds great, and I love when he talks about wanting to be liberated. I find that part so catchy. "I just want to feel liberated, I." But unfortunately, I am not a big fan of the verse that lands on here. Of course, we have the infamous asshole bleaching line, which I'm showing right here, which will go down in history as one of Kanye's worst lines ever. But at the same time, it is a little funny. It's just when I push that aside, I do have to admit that the line is awful. That's not my only qualm with the verse though. The auto-tune on Ye's voice isn't as well executed as it was on the chorus in my opinion. Also, the lyrics just don't have that much substance to them. The whole verse comes off pretty low effort to me and sort of takes away from the track's potential. Overall, I do like this track. I just wish that the verse was a little more solid. At the 11th spot, and this is where we get into the good shit, we have 30 Hours. I fucking love the instrumental on this song. The drums with what sounds like some very faint and distorted strings being plucked at sounds catchy, but also kind of weird upon attentive listens. The way Kanye starts his verse is just amazing. It comes off so him, and I will never forget my reaction when I first heard him say, "You say you never saw this coming, well you're not alone. $1 million renovations to a happy home. My ex says she gave me the best years of her life. I saw a recent picture of her. I guess she was right." Oh my god! As I said, when I first heard that, my face, I was just like, Kanye's rapping is on point, but I especially love his attitude on this song. The way he flows on this track is just so nice. In the second verse, we get another quotable where he says, "I remember being nervous to do Victoria's Secrets till I pictured everybody with their clothes off." Another line that I absolutely love is where he says, "I use the Western Union for you like it's no prob, cause you was in college complaining about it's no jobs, but you were sucking a dude dick the whole time. Well, I guess a blowjob's better than no job." I absolutely love the 3 Stacks contribution on this song, but I will say that my only disappointment with this song is that I wish he had a verse. Well, don't get me wrong, he sounds great singing that little line, 30 hours. I just really wish he was spitting with Kanye. That would have just been amazing to hear. And while that is my only tiny gripe with the song, this is still a fantastic track nonetheless. In the number 10 spot, we have Low Lights. To me, this is one of the most beautiful and emotional moments on the album. The spoken word piece by Kelly Price is powerful and filled with so much passion. The gorgeous pianos add to the emotion, filling it with a sense of bittersweetness. There are some very obvious religious tones in the lyrics. The piece depicting freedom and God's acceptance into what I assume to be heaven sounds like a genuine feeling of euphoria and is a soul-transcending moment. In the number 9 spot, we have Wolves, a perfect follow-up to Real Friends. It sounds like Kanye took the end of that song and just made it heavier and way more epic. The high-pitched vocals sound so beautiful, but in this really creepy and psychedelic way. This sounds like a cut that could have landed on Yeezus, but the production is executed better, and Kanye's auto-tuned vocals sound really strange. Vic Mensa's verse and vocals are surprisingly good. Sia also delivers a wonderfully sang section herself. Kanye's last verse is perhaps the best moment on the track. I like the lyrics, which initially came off stupid and ridiculous to me. However, the heaviness and the serious tone of this song overrules that to me and comes off pretty clever. I actually really like the lines where he says, "I know it's corny bitches you wish you could unfollow. I know it's corny dudes you wish you could unswallow." In the end, a very heavy, dark, but satisfying moment on the album. Also strangely unique and odd. In the number 8 spot, we have Waves. Absolutely blissful production. I love the sample chopping here that Kanye is famous for. It's pretty convenient as a follow-up to I Love Kanye. I love Chris Brown's contribution on the chorus and bridge. His singing just fits so perfectly, but do not let this distract you from the fact that he is an asshole. The muffled humming at the interlude sounds great too. It reminds me of the ending of Runaway. An absolutely gorgeous track that definitely lives up to its name, as it just sounds like a wave of euphoria the entire way through. In the number 7 spot, we have Freestyle 4. Once again, this sounds like a cut that could have landed on Yeezus, but surprisingly that is again not a negative for me. I actually really dig this track. The production is mysterious and I love the pitched vocals that splash in throughout the track. Kanye's performance is just crazy. Some may say that it sounds forced, but at the same time, I'm kind of taken aback at just how fucking weird Kanye is here. Kanye is freakishly aggressive and wild on this song, especially with the lines where he just goes absolutely crazy and just starts going, "What if we fuck right now? What if we fuck in the middle of this motherfucking dinner table?" The designer outro on this song surprisingly fits like a glove, and the production closing things out is just as weird as the rest of the song. Truly one of the most freakishly experimental moments on this whole album, and in my opinion is far more gratifying than a lot of experimental cuts that landed on Yeezus. In the number 6 spot, we have No More Parties in LA. First and foremost, absolutely killer production from Kanye and GOAT conversation worthy Madlib. I love the samples and the subtle bass line that plays throughout. Madlib definitely comes through in a very potent way, and he produced this track on an iPad. The chorus is catchy and I dig the altered Ghostface lines. Perhaps the greatest hip-hop artist of the 2010s, Kendrick Lamar, pops up as a feature and just kills it with a masterful and lyrically dense verse. Honestly though, I kind of feel like Kanye slightly took the spotlight on this one. It was surprising to hear that Ye really was on par with K. lyrically, but I feel like he took the charisma that Kendrick had on his verse and just ramped it up a little more, with some more comedic lines splashed in. I especially love the "I feel like Pablo" lines at the end where he throws a dig at his cousin who stole the laptop, which he mentioned on Real Friends. The outro is great too. I love the sudden change into Junie Morrison singing. In the number 5 spot, and this is where things started to get very difficult for me, I found that placing my favorite tracks in order from here on out was so painful. But at the number 5 spot, we have Ultralight Beam. Extremely weird and unique child preaching at the start of this track. Ye opens with a catchy chorus that is gorgeous. His vocals are just so gentle. The synth style instrumental is very strange too, with some hefty drums kicking in after the chorus. The choir on this song is wonderful and powerful. Kelly Price's singing is incredible. The peak she reaches towards the end of her verse is masterful. Chance is arguably the best part of this song. His singing is perfect and his rapping is dynamic enough to fit the sound of this song. The contrast in his repetition of "this is my part, nobody else speak" is such a perfect little detail. His vocal passage as he sings "this little light of mine" is such a beautiful moment. It gives this song that Kanye touch of nuance that we were familiar with from moments on Kanye's classic albums. Following a final chorus and a refrain, we conclude with a spoken word piece from Kirk Franklin, ended with a powerful finish from the choir. This song is perfect. The religious theme and the holy feeling of transcendence this piece achieves is rare. In the number 4 spot, we have the outro, St. Pablo. This is more of an introspective cut from Kanye. He continues to reflect on himself and the loved ones around him. He starts the track off by saying that Kim says he has a hard time saying no to people, and then when those same people ask him for money while he's in debt, he still refuses to say no. He also talks about his mental state, talking about how people say he's crazy on Twitter, when in reality they don't know what's going on in his personal life. Perhaps my favorite set of lines on this whole song are when he says, "The media said it was outlandish spending. The media said he's way out of control. I just feel like I'm the only one not pretending. I'm not out of control, I'm just not in they control." Ye references himself as this generation's closest thing to Einstein as a reference to his musical genius. Sampha offers up a powerful and gripping chorus. His singing is just wonderful. The second verse sees Kanye tackling materialism and how black people buy their own chains now, as opposed to them being locked up in chains. Perhaps this is to comment on how many minorities are still controlled by corporations as opposed to slavery. Kanye also keeps it very honest with us, perhaps the most honest he's been since his classic albums, talking about his ego and how his self-esteem gets him so high that he becomes out of touch with reality. The ending of this track is fantastically great too. The video game-like production is amazing, and I love how Kanye ends his verse by saying, "She got the same shoes as my wife, but she copped them at Aldo. Modern day MJ with a off-the-wall flow." Sampha finishes out the album with a bridge, verse, and a couple choruses with a stellar performance paired with some light pianos and synths to create a brilliant emotional climax. This is the most perfect ending I could possibly imagine for this project, and I think it's one of the best endings to ever land on a Kanye album. In the number 3 spot, we have Famous. I love the intro to this song. Rihanna's singing is amazing. The beat drop on this song is absolutely insane. Talk about a beat that goes fucking hard. Ye's first verse is awesome too. I love the audacity of that Taylor Swift line. I also love the confidence coming from Kanye. After Yeezus, this feels like a huge return, in some ways similar to his return on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy from 808s and Heartbreak. The second half of this song to me is the most exciting part. Easily one of the greatest moments in Kanye's entire catalog. It goes so hard. The Bam Bam sample is just ridiculous. It's explosive and utterly mind-blowing. To wrap it up, this is one hell of a fucking song. In the number 2 spot, we have FML, also known as Fuck My Life. We open with a verse from Ye that is very introspective. He seems to be examining some of the choices he's made throughout his life and the mistakes that those choices have led to. He seems very aware that he is on a path towards doom and is trying to stop himself from going any further. The chorus sung by The Weeknd is chilling, a stunning display of his voice, which adds so much to this song. It adds a lot of flavor and every color of the rainbow to this track. The last chorus is where this song goes from great to fantastic. The drums that come in over this wintry beat sound incredible and add some much appreciated oomph. The outro is amazing too. The singing from Kanye and the high-pitched vocals add a weird edge that closes the track out very nicely. And finally, at the number 1 spot, my favorite song on this whole album, Real Friends. What a magical moment. The first magical moment from Kanye since Graduation. And on top of that, a real throwback to that classic era of Kanye. The beat is wonderful. It reminds me heavily of Good Morning off of Graduation. This track is also a fitting follow-up to Fuck My Life, as the lyrics once again are very introspective. This time, however, Kanye isn't focused as much on the bad things that are happening to him, but rather the bad things that he is doing. The things that he's fucking up in terms of his personal relationships. Kanye dives deep into these topics with lines such as, "Damn, I forgot to call her. Shit, I thought it was Thursday. Why you wait a week to call my phone in the first place? When was the last time I remembered a birthday? When was the last time I wasn't in a hurry?" The bridge sung by Ty Dolla $ign is a pleasant addition to the track. Kanye talks about how he doesn't care enough about his close friends and family members and how he was robbed by his cousin. Maybe he thinks this is karma, as on the chorus he says, "I guess I get what I deserve, don't I?" Overall, my favorite moment on the album, with a heavy dose of nostalgia that works in this track's favor beautifully. So yeah, that has been The Life of Pablo by Kanye West. It started off a little bit rough. Maybe some people would have gotten the impression that I don't like this album, but that could not be further from the truth because I love this album. While yes, I do feel like Kanye had a little bit of a hiccup with Yeezus, I feel like on this album, he took some of those aspects of Yeezus, and I'm not saying that they sound the same. Someone in the comment section of my Yeezus video seemed to be confused, thinking that drawing similarities between two sounds is automatically me saying that those two songs sound exactly the fucking same. But on this album, I feel like Kanye took some of those sounds from Yeezus and did them better this time. Made an album that to me sounds like it wasn't trying desperately to sound weird. It just was weird. It just came off really strange at times. While with Yeezus, yes, definitely the album sounded weird, I felt like it was a very desperate attempt to make an album that sounds weird. On this album though, I feel like Kanye sort of relaxed a little bit and managed to make an album that is weirdly experimental, but at the same time, very accessible. And that's not to say that Yeezus wasn't accessible. As Mike Seatown said in the Yeezus review on Dead End Hip Hop, my Fisher-Price first experimental album. On this album though, especially on songs like Freestyle 4, those elements of Yeezus were vastly improved on in my opinion. To me, it didn't sound like this album was in your face, like look at me, I'm experimental, I'm trying something different. Instead, this album came off a lot more genuine and really highlighted Kanye's genius in terms of his production style. And I know that this is a polarizing album for a lot of people, but personally, I absolutely loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And that's not to say that there aren't moments on the album that I think are boring or just straight up trash. There are, but there are plenty more moments on this album that are either good, great, and in many cases, absolutely mind-blowing. Truly a one-of-a-kind album from Kanye. I definitely think it's one of his weirdest releases yet, and the risk-taking that he took on this album paid off tremendously. I can't speak enough of how much I love this album, so with that being said, in terms of scoring it, what am I feeling? I'm feeling an 8 out of 10. Fantastic album. Absolutely loved it. So that has been Kanye West, The Life of Pablo, Deep Discog Dive, finished. I'm going to wrap this video up here. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you smack the like button. If you want to stay up to date with my content, please be sure to subscribe. I'll have my last video in the corner. If you haven't checked that out already, definitely make sure to check it out. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.